First of all, thank you for coming out this morning. I know it's a hard stretch to be in Chicago. At least we have a little bit nicer weather this morning, so that if you're Ubering it into McCormick Center, maybe it doesn't feel too early at 7:30, but we're going to make a really good use of your next hour. My name is Mark McKelsey. I'm the Director of Insights and Communications here at GMDC. And the name of what we're going to talk about today is Food Prep Matters. Now, I know all of you have been reading the signage, checking the website, even seeing some of the PR releases that have been coming out, we've been calling it turning food shoppers into Housewares buyers. And all that is the story that we're going to tell today. We're going to go a little bit deeper into it than just that. So let me start off. There's a really interesting story here. About 5 years ago, GMDC started on this entire path to be able to say how shoppers shop. We started a partnership strategically with Nielsen to really develop a GM hierarchy tool that gives category and subcategory data to help GM people, such as everyone that's here at IHA. We all serve the GM industry. We know that it matters to not just grocery and drug, but to all retail. And we know, according to consumer trends, that more and more consumers are looking for these type of products. And we know that grocery, drug, and all retailers are looking at, although GM is low turns, it's high margin. In fact, some of the highest margin inside retail. So let's rev up and talk about the story that we'll go ahead and go through today. Food prep, what is it? We all know that based off of health and wellness, we're going to talk a little bit about boomers and millennials, more millennials today. It's kind of the secret sauce for all of our businesses to try to understand it. And a lot of the CPG companies are saying, how can I capture that millennials? We're going to really dive into that today as well. Food prep. We know that consumers, and I would venture to say every health and wellness consumer that's out there is coming into a store and buying based off of the health and wellness of themselves or their family. So they're shopping for themselves or someone they care about. Because of that, health and wellness, food plays a huge role into that. There's a before and after stage of food. There's what we would call before or afterwards, there's food storage. Before that, GMDC has recognized that the consumer is shopping kitchenware, housewares, they're shopping for tableware and gadgets. There's a lot within that category. GMDC has unique vocabulary around that we're socializing to our retailers. We're just calling that food prep. Why? Because it just makes sense. That's how the shopper shops. When they come into the store, they're looking for food prep, things on how can they have that experience, their guidance towards eating something that tastes good and looks good. It's just one category, food prep. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So food prep, I've talked a little bit about that. I want to make sure everyone knows, feel free to pick up the executive summary of this new research paper by GMDC. It's over on the side table. And we have other GMDC people here in our business session this morning that would love to talk to you more about it. So we've talked about that it's a mega category driven by the health and wellness consumer. It's not just about the consumer. So we as GMDC coach and partner with our retail members to be able to say that to think more like the consumer. In order to capture that basket fill that you're truly looking for, we need to start breaking down some silos. We're going to hear about that today as well. Some things that you're going to learn today. Best practices versus next practices. So what is that? That's, again, some more really unique GMDC language. Best practices, we're all interested in it. What we want to do, whether we're a buyer, whether we're a shopper, whether we're a category manager, whether we're a seller or a reseller, we want to know best practices. Who's doing what in the industry and who's leading that? That's not, at the pace of technology today, that's not good enough anymore. We at GMDC continue to say what we call next practices. Let's start focusing on the consumers and the trends and the forward-facing information that's coming out of retail and consumer trends so that we can start looking in towards the future. You'll hear some of that language within our panelists today as well. Finally, we do want to say that Center Store is challenged, but it's not dead. We've got some very unique strategies to talk to you about that today. When retailers come up to me and they say, Mark, can GMDC help me as a retailer be able to fight the battle with space within center store. We often hear, we all know that Greek yogurt is good for us. It's high in protein. What are retailers doing today? What retailers are taking, or we have C-level executives that are saying, let's go put a 4-foot of Greek yogurt and take that out of center store. Retailers are coming to GMDC and saying, Mark, what do I do with that? I'm losing personal electronics. I'm losing kitchenware. We're saying, don't lose it, just move it. So we'll talk more about that today. Some more research that we're going to dive into, in addition to that, headed up by Nielsen and Riedel Marketing, is that we have information to show that 70% of cookware shoppers plan their purchases, but 40% of those are still highly influenced when they come into the retail store. Now that's a big deal because the 30% that don't plan their purchases are already buying top-of-mind items. So the 40% into that 70% are as well. That's a big consumer category. We know at least 50% of all the consumers are still highly influenced when they come into the retail based on signage, how the retailer is talking to them, merchandising, and how the environment is laid out. And then finally, we're going to talk about millennials. Millennials want it all. We know that millennials are 77 million strong in the US, boomers are 70 million. We know that based on Nielsen research, that for the millennials, they're highly influenced still by boomers. The boomers are still paying many of those bills. So that's a very big consumer group, close to a third, possibly even more of the US population. Something I do not want to be able to do is miss introducing the panel. So that's enough for me, but let me go ahead. Todd Hill, formerly with Nielsen, our Retail Insights leader, is here to lead us through about 20 minutes of what's going on at retail. How's the consumer shopping? Tammy Marlowe, also a GMDC member, the Director of GM and HBW of Associated Foods. Joe Kirby, the VP of Retail Sales and Category Management of Imperial, is here to join us. Anna Mancini, the VP of Merchandising Value Merchandisers. And Brett Bradshaw, President of Bradshaw International and one of our thought leaders, supporters, and sponsors, not only for this session, but some of the research that you're about to download a little bit later. So with that said, Todd, can you go ahead and kick us off?
Thanks, Mark. So I've been talking about growth challenges in the US for about a year and a half now with a framework around how do you drive growth. And number one on that list is staying connected with winning retailers and winning categories. And if you think about food prep, conservatively speaking, Nielsen measures about 90% of the household population buys food prep in a year with an average frequency of about 6 times a year, which I think is probably a bit understated. But that says that shoppers are coming into stores every other month to buy in the category. And if you think about daily usage of the category, it's immense because there's at least 3 meal occasions and snacking occasions that the category is being leveraged in the house, so very important. Second part of the framework is engaging in digital shopping and digital retailing. Obviously, Amazon impact, we're going to talk about that. E-commerce matters today. I would argue that in the food world, it's probably getting a little bit more attention than it needs, but nevertheless, there is growth there. Third on the list is winning the trip by engaging in shoppers that matter. That's generations, that's multicultural, that's those with spending power. Fourth on the list is driving, not riding the health and wellness growth wave, but recognize that indulgence matters. And if you look at quick serve restaurants, for example, what's winning today is not healthy food, it's what tastes good and what matters to shoppers who frequent those restaurants. And then finally, winning the occasion, whether it's a seasonal period, whether it's a meal occasion, whether it's a cleaning, household, or personal care occasion, so a framework of 5 areas to drive growth. When you think about our retail landscape today, it's kind of daunting, all the talk that's going on today about disruption or disruptors. I would like to frame that as there's a lot of innovators out there. And it's just not e-commerce where we see innovation. The brick and mortar guys are doing a pretty good job of keeping pace in a lot of areas, but also innovating around the kinds of stores that they provide their shoppers, what goes inside of their boxes, their engagement in digital shopping, their engagement in health and wellness. But you really got to stay on top of things these days because pace of change is just incredible these days. So, and when you look across the store in terms of Nielsen metrics, total store sales of about $821 billion, sales through supermarkets, drugstores, mass merchandisers, dollar stores, club stores, convenience stores. And growth over the last 3 years has only been 2% growth on average for the last 3 years. So kind of slow growth considering that we're in an economic recovery. But what is probably more problematic is the fact that unit sales growth has basically been flat for the last 3 years. Now, what's missing from these numbers, pure play e-commerce retailers, what's missing from this are non-cooperators that do not provide their POS data to Nielsen, the biggest one being Costco. All other non-cooperators like Aldi and Whole Foods, Nielsen at least projects for. So there's actually more growth in the marketplace than what's being measured through Nielsen metrics. But nevertheless, as we measure what's going on in the store, a pretty good representation of what's going on. And some of the reasons why growth may not be as fast as we would like it to be, number one, let's face it, population in this country is not growing the way it used to be. Is this mic on too? So population growth has slowed in this country, slowest rate since 1935, and we're very diverse. More diversity, we're more unlike today than we've ever been. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, a lot of white households, popping out a lot of babies, driving a lot of growth because we had a lot of mouths to feed, and that's no longer the case today. Wages have been stagnant in this country for the last 5-6 years. Poverty levels among households with kids, important segments of the population because of the volume that it can drive, is a pretty alarming number. And finally, e-commerce. The faster e-commerce grows, the more it's going to impact overall growth in terms of retail. And it's just not retailers that are engaging in e-commerce these days. When you think about the fact that Mondelez has come out and says that their goal by 2020 is to sell $1 billion of business direct to consumers. They're about 100 million today. So they've got a long way to get up to that number, but you're going to see a lot of efforts by manufacturers going direct to consumer. But there is growth. There's growth at the retail level, there's growth at the category level, and you look across formats, format alone does not guarantee success. Hardware home improvement's doing really well. We're spending money on our apartments, on our houses, fixing them up because we're spending more time at home. And Home Depot is doing a little bit better job than Lowe's. The drug chains are all growing. Walgreens doing better than Rite Aid and CVS, but it's really driven by their prescription drug business. Their front of store business has been pretty soft, maybe flat to up 1%. Costco clearly outperforming Sam's Club in the club business. And mainstream supermarkets, Kroger, Publix, H-E-B, Wegmans, you name it, there's a lot of mainstream grocers that are doing really well. And who's having a tough time is some of the natural gourmet organic guys. Whole Foods, Fresh Market, Sprouts is doing pretty well. And then Save-A-Lot, sort of that low-end supermarket struggling at a time when you'd think they might be doing pretty well, but they're having a tough time. And on the value side, the dollar chains are growing, but their growth compared to what was going on in 2007, 8, and 9 is down. And the mass guys continue to struggle to drive growth. Target and Walmart at least have delivered about 5 or 6 quarters of same-store sales growth, but nowhere near where it was prior to the recession. And this sort of race for scale, it's really small formats in the US that are driving overall store count, with Dollar Tree's acquisition of Family Dollar now up to over 13,000 stores and growing. Dollar General announced they want to add another 900 stores this year. So it's dollar stores, it's drug stores, convenience, gas, that's where the big store count is, but the volume is really going to be driven by supermarkets and club stores and mass merchandisers, those bigger boxes that carry a lot more assortment, have a lot more trips and a lot more shoppers than some of those smaller formats. And a lot of innovation. You know, Target is rolling out smaller, not to be confused with small mass merchandiser formats in urban settings where millennials are moving back into those locations. Rebranding that instead of calling it City Target, calling it Target again. They also rolled out an express format that they've rebranded it to be Target. It's more of a hybrid between a convenience store and a drugstore, but innovating around format. But again, a lot of messages around small. And Kroger, if you look over time, they've actually invested in bigger stores. Their footprint has grown over time. But where they are investing in small is around food. They just announced this year the opening of Main and Vine in Seattle, a small format that's really catered towards food and food prep. and creating that in-store experience that I think a lot of grocery chains are going to win at and help them fight the invasion of e-commerce into their space. Whole Foods, because of their high-priced image, rolling out their 365 market format. Lower priced offerings, still quality, still fresh, and target against millennial shoppers because they too see a big opportunity there. Now, when you look forward, when we look at historic data around store count expansion and sales levels and try to project the future, and the past is not always a good predictor of the future, no surprise who's going to win. From census level data, e-commerce is going to grow compounded annual growth rates around 12% for the next 5 years. In the green of those retail formats that Nielsen is projecting will win share because they're growing faster than average. So that's club, that's dollar stores, convenience gas. In the yellow are formats that are going to grow, but they're not going to grow as fast as average, so we're going to see some share erosion. Supermarkets are there, supercenters are in that group. And then the red, a lot of specialty formats that have already been challenged for growth because of business taken away by big box retailers or business that they've lost to e-commerce, and they will continue to be challenged in this new world of e-commerce. But just think about Amazon. You know, they're projected to be the #1 apparel retailer by next year. Bigger than Macy's, who's #1 today. It's just amazing how fast they're growing in a lot of spaces. And just to look at the growth, so I thought it would be interesting to look at sort of 4 big retailers, Walmart, Costco, Kroger, and Amazon, and look at their growth levels over the last 5-6 years. Clearly, Walmart's the leader in sales, $482 billion globally, but they actually lost sales this year compared to last year. Costco at $114 billion, Kroger at $110 billion, Amazon $108 billion. They've tripled in size since 2010. They've grown by $73 billion over the last five years, more about $18 billion, $12 billion more than Walmart. They've grown faster than Costco and Kroger combined over the last 5 years. And in 1 year alone, they grew by $18 billion, which is more than double the growth of the 3 retailers below them. So obviously, they're having an amazing effect. Now, you can ask yourself, well, are they making any money at what they're doing? So they made $600 million this last year, compared to the last 3 years where they're either flat or negative in terms of income. So the jury's still out in terms of how profitable they're going to be, but if you look at their stock price, at least the street is saying these guys know what they're doing, and eventually they're going to start making some money. But clearly, Walmart leads in profits, followed by Costco, Kroger, and then Amazon with $600 million in profit. And I think you have to ask yourselves, how is e-commerce going to affect the profits of these other retailers over time? The more you get engaged in e-commerce as a brick and mortar retailer, that means you're spending money in areas that have nothing to do with your stores or little to do with your stores. So that means your costs are going to go up, and it's likely going to impact your profits. So what's selling today? Mark talked about the fact that, center store is not dead. If you look at edibles across center store, excluding alcoholic beverages, the biggest department out there is dry grocery. $249 billion in sales, and it's growing, it's not declining, and it's much larger than any other edible department across the store. And if you look at the sales change between 2011 and 2015, half the sales gain actually came from the grocery department. An index of about 8% below what you would have expected where it was in 2011. And the departments that have really suffered have been the frozen department and the bakery department, where sales indices are well below average of where they were in 2011. But it's that deli department, the meat department, the produce department, the perimeter of the store where we've seen a lot of investment from retailers is where the growth has been. Its growth has been on average of 2 to almost 3 times faster than you would have expected. But there's growth. And if you look at categories where growth is, millennials, one of the great things millennials have brought us, craft beer. The beer category has grown by $4.5 billion over the last 5 years, and it's not regular premium beer, it's craft beer that's really driving that. Salty snacks, health and wellness, meat snacks are in there. A lot of salty snacks are driving growth. Indulgence matters, snacking occasions matter. We're eating more snack occasions than main meals. New age beverage, that's Red Bull and Monster drink, another category very tied with growth of millennials. But there's fresh fruit, there's fresh vegetables. Again, the perimeter of the store comes on that list. Who's not winning? Soft drinks, ready-to-eat cereal, categories that are losing some relevance, but they're still huge categories. The cereal category is about an $8 to $9 billion category. It's not going away. it's just having some challenges. And if you look at the overall aggregate of gainers versus losers, there's obviously a lot more gainers than there are losers. And in fact, when you look at the 5 of the top 5 growth categories and 7 of the biggest decliners are from center store grocery department, and the gainers actually average about $16 billion in growth, and the losers $3.2 billion in losses. So the winners are still winning. Center store is still growing. So obviously, lots of opportunities to engage what you guys manufacture and sell with what's going on inside the store. But without question, the fresh department matters more. Nielsen also measures UPC-coded products in addition to those non-barcoded products like apples and meat. And the Nielsen Perishables group can project what's going on across the store in those fresh departments. And in all of these departments, dollar sales are growing, and the only department that's not growing in terms of volume is meat because of price inflationary pressures over the last couple of years. And if you look at the deli prepared food part of the store, fresh sushi, soups, pizza, appetizers, products ready to consume either inside of the store or take it home and eat as is or reheat, doing incredibly well. So if you think about your categories, it's not necessarily food prep, but how do you store, how do you serve, how do you heat, how do you cool, and how do you make your offerings linked in with a part of the store that's really driving growth. Still not as big as center store, but very important. And this whole growth in health and wellness. So organics over the last 4 years have driven compounded annual growth rates of 14% on a dollar basis, compared to 2% sales across the store. The top 5 fastest growing long-term health and wellness claims, amaranth, chia, quinoa, grass-fed, kamut. Look at those growth levels, just incredible growth. But none of those big growth items are big in terms of dollar sales. None of them are larger than $500 million in sales a year. So great growth from a lot of interesting categories, but not big in terms of overall sales, but nevertheless growing. But the supermarket industry and supermarkets who might have thought were gone or were dying are really reinventing themselves to be engaged with food. WINN-DIXIE has got this new pilot celebrating food, and they talk about cooking in the kitchen, which really means cooking in their kitchens inside of the store. Again, the importance of deli prepared meals inside of their store. But when you look at the store, clearly they've got a message around fresh, but they're also investing a lot of energy around center store as well. So if consumers are flocking to the perimeter, what do you do about it? Well, Coca-Cola and Walmart at least collaborated on the fact that, on your way home from school or work, radio ads, TV ads, newsprint ads around, stop by the Walmart deli, pick up a pizza, a prepared meal or salad, and oh, by the way, we're going to have Coca-Cola right there for you. So we're going to talk in the panel discussion around secondary locations, but as Mark pointed out, you need to get in other locations of the store where the action is to make sure you're getting part of that growth in traffic. Digital shopping, digital retailing. So some Nielsen metrics around, the percent of households that are willing to buy online, the numbers are pretty high. This is interest in buying online. Those that are actually buying groceries online, it's maybe 10 to 14% across all these different occasions, whether it's online order and deliver to your home, online order or pick up at store. Getting growth, but a small percentage of the population using today, but a lot of interest from consumers to try them. And when you look at categories where intent to buy is high, it's a flip-flop of what we see in the store. Today, about 65% of what we spend in stores are edibles. When it comes to e-commerce, a much higher likelihood for consumers to buy non-edibles in stores than edibles. And when you think about the fact that most of the edible categories, that the interest is 10% or less, it's not like they're going to devote all of those purchases to online. It's going to be sort of a portion of their purchases are going to go online. I would argue that the bulk of their purchases are going to stay inside of the store. There are going to be some occasions where online ordering and picking up at store or having delivered to you is going to be important. But without question, Amazon's an innovation machine. How many Amazon Prime users out there? So I'm working from home now. I think my wife's been having an affair with the UPS guy and the FedEx guy because it's amazing how often they come by our house. But the number of people in our neighborhood that are buying online is just incredible. But what Amazon is doing with their subscribe and save service, the more you buy on a regularly scheduled basis, you save. They have an Amazon pantry where even if you're a Prime user, you have to pay additional money to get a 45-pound box of stuff sent to you. This Amazon Dash, that's a little device that sits on your coffee maker with the Tide brand name on it, or on your washing machine, or a coffee maker with Maxwell House. As a consumer, you have to pay $4.99 for this button, and once you use it to push it and order something, you get that money back, but they're trying to engage consumers to do a lot of subscription buying. Now they're embedding that same technology within devices, so that there can be automatic replenishment and ordering coming through some of those devices. So Prime Now, you can spend $7.99 to get something sent to you within an hour. If you wait 2 hours, it's free. Guess what? People are ordering it and getting it within an hour. The immediacy that people think that they have the stuff is just amazing, and it's driving demand for Amazon. Walmart clearly is invested behind this effort. They're more engaged in at least in their stores around click and collect, and they're rolling out the ability for their shoppers to order online and pick up at their stores. Peapod, within 3 train station stops in the DC area, you can order online and pick up on your way home. So making it convenient for you. You don't have to go to a store, but they'll have a location where they're going to get a lot of people going by that location. And for you manufacturers who are concerned about selling through Amazon, or more importantly, selling direct to consumers, and what your retailer partners might think of that, look what Gillette Shave Club has done. I joined it about 2 months ago. When you sign up for this, you have the option to either have Gillette fulfill that order, or you can have Amazon do it, or you can have Target do it. So they're building an infrastructure where retailers and themselves benefit from people signing up for this online engagement. So I think a pretty smart move on their part. And how about Google? So Google Express, creating a collaboration across some pretty impressive retailers to provide next-day delivery from Costco, from Whole Foods, from Walgreens, from Fry's, from Kohl's, from Staples, Ace Hardware. So that's where the inventory is going to be, but Google will fulfill the order. $95 a year for the right to order online and get something next day. If you think about where these subscription fees are going, how many of you have Costco memberships? So you pay $50 to $110 for that membership, then you have to pay $95 a year for this. You pay $99 a year for Amazon Prime. You spend $299 if you want Amazon Fresh. These subscription fees are getting pretty high before we even get anything sent to our store, to our homes. I think another reason why we're not growing because all the money we're spending on these fees. And look what Google Express is doing. Because Amazon Fresh, they see poses a threat to them long term, they're now launching a grocery delivery service in San Francisco and Los Angeles to keep pace with what Amazon is doing. So it's just incredible collaboration that's going on in our industry. And how about Blue Apron and Plated and HaloFresh? Ordering meals ahead of time, 2 to 3 at a time, depending on your size of family. All you have to do is cut them up and follow the instructions to prepare a meal. Ahold is now offering the same service, creating boxes of prepared meals that you actually go home and prepare for yourselves, either pick up at store or have it sent to you. And how about this? An appliance manufacturer, Crock-Pot. They now have a subscription service where you can order online and have products sent to you to prepare a meal. And guess what? They chop it up for you. It's kind of unique and different compared to what's going on with the other players in this space. So I took some time looking at some of the big retailers in terms of what are they doing online around food prep categories. I was kind of surprised to see Kroger, because I'm a big Kroger fan. I live 2.5 blocks away from a very nice Kroger. You can't really find kitchen items on the regular website for Kroger. You have to go in their marketplace format, their bigger format, to find them. Clearly, Amazon has lots of space on their website for their shoppers to engage broadly in the food prep space. And H-E-B, which I think obviously is getting more engaged in online engagements, has a pretty good, has had a very nice website investing in your category where shoppers can look online, buy in store, or have products sent to them as well. So a lot of activity from grocery stores in the space as well. And this whole move towards digital, obviously you know how mobile phones are taking over our lives. You can't go through an airport but having to walk around somebody who stops in mid-walk to look at their phone. But the willingness to use digital options for grocery shopping is pretty high, a variety of means. And without question, we're moving to mobile. And that's very important when we talk about generations, because the younger you are, the more likely that you're using digital things to plan your shopping trip. Older populations, not as much. Grocery stores spend 60 to 70% of their marketing budgets on these paper ads every week. And you know, I think Kroger said maybe half of their shoppers read them. The younger people don't. They don't read newspapers, at least traditional newspapers. They're more likely to read them online. And you can't think millennials without thinking multicultural. Those less than 9 in the population today, they've already met the fact that multicultural commands half the population. So when you speak to consumers, when you speak to millennials, we need to think about speaking to them differently. If you look at a lot of websites these days, you see a lot of white faces. Nielsen research says that if you advertise to people and include blacks and African Americans, Asians, and those people see themselves in ads, the recall scores, the likability scores are a lot higher. It's some very easy fixes that we can get out there to make sure that we're connecting the right way with multicultural populations because they mean so much. So I would urge you that if you don't have an app, you need to get an app. So it's time to get your app moving because this is where the world's going. And if any of you have Starbucks, I have a Starbucks app where I can now order ahead of time and bypass everybody in the line to pick up my coffee. It works about every other day the right way. They've still got some challenges with it, but it's a pretty interesting engagement. And how about the future? That's really here now, the Internet of Things. We have devices that can track how many steps we take, what our heart monitor rate might be, what our blood pressure might be. We're now going to have smart devices that, again, are going to enable us to order things. We're going to have drivable cars. I would venture to say when we have drivable cars, we're going to be spending a lot of time in our cars shopping and watching. We might even be cooking inside of our cars. So you need to think about what kind of kitchen devices should we have in our cars, because what else are people going to do? So lots of opportunities to be engaged in shoppers in the future. Finally, winning the occasion. So I took a look at your categories, at least a select set of your categories, and looked at weekly sales indices across the year. And clearly, during Thanksgiving and holiday gift buying season, your categories really pop in terms of sales. But the indices in the rest of the year are not that bad, which means you have opportunities to engage shoppers throughout the year and make sure that you are providing the right merchandising, promotion, support to make sure that you are engaging shoppers because there is opportunity. So with that, I'm going to go back and perform the role of moderator and ask the panelists a series of questions about the work that the GMDC did with the study, as well as some of the findings from the study and some of the things that they're doing inside of their stores. So we're going to go along with a series of questions, so you'll be able to see the questions as we go through these. And the first one's, you know, obviously there's a lot of innovation in formats, as we talked about in this presentation. I'd just like to know from the panelists is what is it about food prep categories that sort of aligns nicely with some of the innovation that's going on today. And Mark, let's start with you.
Sure. I think it was the most interesting part as GMDC began to really dive into this research is we had some series of interviews as well as testing. And the one retailer that we're working with, Spartan Nash, Karen Bakewell, the director of GM and HBC, came to us and said that what she noticed is that as she started to talk to the C-level to be able to start to what we're calling break down the silos, not only with between trading partners, but even within retail, so that you have food and non-food working better together. She said we noticed a sharp increase when pineapple cores were actually merchandised with pineapples. In addition to that, the food sales began to sharply increase as well. You had consumers coming into the store and saying, I don't have a core, I'll just walk by, I don't need that pineapple. But when the core was actually being merchandised with the pineapple, both were being lifted and had quite a great increase in sales.
So food prep matters because food matters.
Right, exactly.
Tammy?
In our company, health and wellness is a top initiative right now. And with all the new stores and remodels, the perimeter department is growing, center store is shrinking. So moving the food prep over to the fresh foods where the ingredients are for all these fresh, healthy meals are, that's just a natural fit. And hopefully this increases the impulsive sales, just like you were mentioning, and the size of the basket for the stores.
Yeah, I have a Kroger that has a liquor store, a wine bar, it's getting a growler bar, it's got cushy seats, fireplace, Starbucks. I think I'm going to start working there. I know the wife would like me working there, but it's amazing what's going on. Anna?
more and more consumers are looking for healthier food options. They're looking for simpler ingredients. They're looking for help in order to make better choices. So with that, buying fresh food requires preparing more meals at home, looking for healthier and simpler meal solutions. So I think that's where the natural fit between the trends we're seeing, the consumer trends, and supermarkets in particular as retail come together, come to play. So for us, these categories have enjoyed tremendous growth over the last few years. Kitchenware combined with appliances, cookware, bakeware, they're the top 3 GM category. Last year, those combined categories grew about 5% and are on target to grow even more this year. So to me, it's when you combine the consumer trends and what's happening in the stores, that's just a natural fit.
You know, in-store demos are an expensive thing to do, but you see a lot of more grocers. Costco's done it for years. Has there been any in-store demos that you guys have done with kitchenware, kitchen gadgets, to try to stimulate the connection between food and food prep? Just curious if we've done any of that in the industry.
I'm actually going to use Mark's example because we did that with pineapple cores, and so tremendous lift in sales both for the produce item and the GM item. Right. So that's one example that we've had.
Okay. So the future view. You know, I talk about best practices. GMD is talking about next practices, which I think is a great way to position it. What do retailers need to understand in order to grasp the trends of the future, and how is innovation defined in the category of food prep and food gadgets? Tammy, I think we're going to start off with you for that question.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to one of my member stores, Harmon's. They do an excellent job with their kitchen centers, and she's got an end cap that she keeps merchandise with the latest trends and fashion colors, and keeps it rotating throughout the seasons. But it's kind of like a crate and barrel look that she has going, and I'm guilty of stopping by, making that unplanned purchase, and seeing what's new. She does a great job with just keeping it up to date. Impulse sales.
Brett, you're ready to go, right, with the answer to this?
Ready to go. We at Bradshaw, we're constantly innovating, excuse me, and developing new products that make the food prep process for our consumers easier, faster, more fun, and healthier. This year alone, we're introducing 500 new items at our Good Cook booths. Come by and check them out. When it comes to ideas, we really get our ideas from all over the globe. Traditional ways such as focus groups, and we also have a 7,000 consumer Good Cook consumer community, which is a digital collection of food Good Cook junkies that love to share their ideas on how we can build products, what we should build, how we can make them better. But another area we get our information and our product development ideas from is all of you folks, our retail customers. Our salespeople will talk with you throughout the year, bring your ideas back to our headquarters in Southern California, and we'll mix those ideas up with all of our traditional ways of getting information, and together we'll tailor those programs for the different demographic needs across the country.
Great, thank you. So my wife and I have 2 millennials that have left the nest, not to be confused with leaving the wallet, but they've left the house. And our engagement with them in cooking is pretty interesting. Our daughter will come over and take something for cookware from us and not bring it back. Our son will at least bring it back. But it's pretty interesting to watch how we do connect with each other around food. So Joe, a question for you. You know, millennials have been a big opportunity. Mark talked about it for growth for years. How can the industry really recognize that potential?
Well, it's interesting. They consider themselves foodies. They love to cook at home. They'll tell you they love to cook at home once a week. I guess that's cooking at home, so that's great. You know, we think about what they're interested in. One of the things they're very, very concerned with is sourcing practices, and they want to support brands and companies that support their local communities. It's very, very important to them. So.
Yeah. And they are more likely to skip meals than any other generation, but cooking shows too. They look at cooking shows as entertainment.
Yes,
So it's
yeah,
interesting.
and they get a lot of their inspiration on social media. They're,
Right.
Pinterest, Instagram are absolutely sources for their recipes. And how do we, as an industry, leverage that and ensure that we've got the proper food prep items out there on those social platforms?
Anna?
I think that by now we all understand the importance of the millennial consumer. I think what we need to realize how quickly their needs are changing. I think we need to look at, the majority of them are shopping different locations for quality, for price. Majority of them are looking for their information, for new trends, new products, all on social media, online. So we need to figure out, when I say we, the retailers, we need to figure out how to engage them through technology. So as you guys mentioned earlier, if you don't have an app, you need an app. How do you communicate with them? You have to engage them not just in store. You have to start before they even come to your store, and then when they're in, keep with the engagement. Another just in-store solution is they're all about simple, quick. So what are those things in the store that we can do so they can come and grab something? I think that's where some of the success we see at retailers with one bag meal, one meal solution for that night comes to play.
All right. Brett?
Yeah, when it comes to maximizing the millennial potential, there's so many things we can do in food prep. One of the main things is continue to win in the perimeter. So they really care about the produce category, deli, meat, wine, craft beer, all of those areas. And we build kitchen tools and gadgets that cross-merchandise with all of those categories. Fun, innovative, unique items. And so take advantage of that. They're time-starved, but they want to eat healthy and tasty meals. Number two, engage with them on the mobile digital platform. And so what we do in this area is we're investing in developing rich content, whether it's recipes, videos, tips that they can access, digital couponing, all of those things that will help them make their decisions easier when they're at the point of purchase decision in your stores. Number three, cause marketing matters to all of us, but it really matters to the millennials. And so, personally, our company is committed to the National Breast Cancer Foundation and Autism Speaks. We remit 10% of proceeds of a couple of cookware promotions where we tie in with the colors of those charity foundations. We're committed to it as a corporation. But it definitely resonates well, those types of efforts with the millennials. Number four would be ethnic diversity. Many things we can do from an ethnic diversity standpoint, whether it's running Chinese New Year promotions in February featuring stir-fry pans, santoku knives, bamboo tools. It might be a Cinco de Mayo promotion in May with tamale pots and stock pots, or even in October, an Italian Days promotion with pasta and pasta pots and pasta tools, etc. So endless opportunities with kitchen tools and gadgets to keep something fun and fresh 12 months of the year. And so I think that's the main thing, Todd, is sit down with your sales manager, plan out the whole year, because there's something fun we can do every month, and stick to the plan.
Great, great.
Todd, with that being said, we talk a lot in the GMBC research about boomers as well. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I find we talk about millennials a lot, so give us some more shopper insights in regards to what they're doing.
Well, we boomers, we have spending power, right? We control half the CPG spend in the US today. So don't lose sight of them. And I know a lot of energy has been given to millennials, and rightly so, because where they're going to be in the future. But a big opportunity to focus on boomers. And I think there is a good relationship between boomer parents and their kids. And there's some beauty care and apparel manufacturers who are leveraging people like Joni Mitchell and Jessica Lange in their ads. Now, you don't see a lot of older guys in ads, but at least they're advertising women a little more attractive than us guys as we age. But recognizing, again, if you see people like you in ads, chances are you're going to respond to those better. And some simple things you can do to fix that. But clearly, both groups are very important. One because of population, where they're going, the other because of spending power. Great question, though. So we talked a little bit about secondary locations. I'm a big proponent of this, that you can sell a lot of gravy when you got the gravy next to the potatoes. And I think we have a big opportunity if we can convince our retail partners to spend more time thinking about total store and how we link the store together. So Anna, any thoughts on how we make this happen?
Well, Todd, I really believe in the balance between secondary locations and promotional support. I think the combination of them makes retailers successful. However, I think there are times of the year where promotional support becomes a little more important, and an example is in fourth quarter, where some of these categories, their sales account for like 40% of their total annual sales. Promotional support becomes crucial. Not executing successful fourth quarter promotion could mean that you're not going to meet the sales targets for the whole year. So a balance between both is important. For us, we have a very successful clip strip program that is executed in about 800 stores, and we're adding more and more stores to the program every year. Double-digit growth. This program last year grew 27%, and it was a combination between organic growth and adding more stores to the program, as well as adding a produce department program. So all the tie-ins that we talked earlier on, and it doesn't take a lot of items. It's just it's tying the right item to the right produce item. So I think and I'm still, like, I visit a lot of stores throughout the year. I'm still amazed that there's a lot of stores that don't take advantage of this one simple, it takes about 20 gadgets, located in the right part of the store.
Yeah, and millennials do shop perimeter more than boomers. That's one area where they go to more so than center store. Tammy?
I think both are important. Secondary location throughout the store is going to increase your chance of getting that impulse buy and catching the eye of the shopper that doesn't go down the primary aisle. And then you've got to have promotions to encourage the sales. So they're both important.
Right. Yeah, the challenge with promotions, it's really tough to correlate either level of promotion or increase in promotions on whether or not it really drives increases in sales. It's got a 50-50 split, so you really got to be smart about how you do it, but without question it matters.
I'd like to go ahead and ask a question as well. Nielsen is a strategic partner with GMBC. Joe, the question for you is just about seasonality and trading partner relationships and how we try to connect and help our retailers and manufacturers really collaborate. Can you talk about some success stories and what you're doing with seasons and food prep?
Sure. I think about where the opportunity lies, and we have these obvious peak times, be it Thanksgiving, Easter, et cetera, where people are thinking a lot more about entertaining. But I think we need to take our inspiration from Williams-Sonoma, who I think does a terrific job. When you walk into the front of the store, it's Thanksgiving, it's barbecue. It's obvious you've got the complete solution selling going on. I think we need to do more of that. We need to ensure we're breaking down the silos. I think as important is to play within those peaks. We have, in food stores, we've got the benefit of having multiple trips, and we have the opportunity to really change up that experience to tie in with demos. And we talked a little bit about the pineapples and the pineapple core. What's more intimidating than an oyster? I had a retailer doing oyster demos a few weeks ago. And in one store, a very simple thing, the demo person didn't bring in her oyster knife from home. We had an oyster knife there available for sale, and we sold over 100 units in that one store in a one afternoon demo. Wow. Brett could probably share what the average number of pieces per store per week are in an oyster knife, but it's not 100 in an afternoon.
It's not.
And there's simple things. Put the soup mugs on the soup end cap. You can really, can do some meaningful things and really helping the consumer and driving the basket, driving the margin.
Tammy, do you have any insights that you can share with us?
Mass does a great job with kitchen gadgets and the latest appliances and stuff around the holiday season, but don't count the grocery channel out. I think if it's displayed right and in a good selling area, you can still sell those items. They're impulse sales and convenience, and they don't have to go to another store. And then food prep it's a category for every day. It's not just during the holidays. There's birthdays, anniversaries, just casual get-togethers, And I think if it's displayed, seasonally relevant and a solution-driven area, or solution-driven display, you can get those sales year-round.
And Todd, we were talking seasons, but talking about barbecue, I live in Kansas City. I mean, barbecue is a year-round celebration for us. So in a lot of our geographies in Kansas, Texas, Missouri, I mean, barbecue is a year-round event. So we have a program that we developed with our vendor partner, Bradshaw, that is now available for our stores year-round to be merchandised together with the protein you need and the sauces and the marinades and the spices. So the stores that have taken advantage of that are seeing tremendous incremental sales and profits.
All right, great point. So health and wellness, a huge opportunity in our food industry. How are consumers being influenced, and how do they define their own personal health and wellness as it relates to food and food prep? Mark, you've got some thoughts?
Yeah, perhaps not as related to food prep, but at GMDC we do look at health and wellness slightly differently, perhaps. We tend to find within the industry that we bucketize health and wellness. We actually look at health and wellness as a bit of a demographic spin. We look at those who are, especially, we had a lot of conversations about boomers and millennials today. We find that boomers gravitate towards buying out of health reasons. They're trying to deal with some type of chronic condition that may have. Millennials are more focused less on health and more about wellness. How are products making them feel, more or less? And we find that that does play into food prep, but we just want to make sure that health and wellness can be separate, but also can be together as well. And we tend to talk that way.
Great point. Brett?
Well, I guess I would just say that the millennials are really into eating healthy. We need to continue to focus on the fresh produce tie-ins. At Bradshaw, we've got a 40 SKU professionals line of products that focuses only on produce, and you've got everything in there from spiralizers that make veggie pasta. You've got strawberry hullers and cherry pitters and avocado tools and all sorts of fun tools that you can use to make your tasty, healthy dishes. The other thing is continue to run demos. We do a number of those, and they're very successful. Apple wedger or Apple machines during Apple season. It's a $20 ring, yet if you run a demo on that item, you can really add up the dollars. And so I think it's more fresh. In the produce area, meat is another area, safe cooking. So meat thermometers, part of our professionals program evolves around meat items also. And we have all sorts of brochures and literature that merchandise in our racks and fixtures that help educate the consumer on how to prepare meat so that it tastes better and it's also safe at the same time.
I walked the store or the show yesterday, and indulgence matters too. A category in the store that's doing really well is fresh desserts, fresh cakes, fresh pies, fresh muffins. So, and in my Kroger, it's like running a gauntlet. Before you get back to produce, you have to go through the good tasting stuff too. So
yeah, and we actually hit that one pretty hard as well. About 3 years ago, we launched our Sweet Creations program, which is a kind of a do-it-yourself, focusing on that DIY novelty baking trend. Young mothers with children are baking sweet treats and desserts at home more than ever. Having fun with it, and we've just got all sorts of fun, great creative items that are really fun to use. We've got great fixtures to help merchandise that as well. And so we talk a lot about innovation in product, but it's not just product. I think a key thing here is also the fixturing options. And so we spend a whole lot of time and energy on developing the right fixture that works for your store. From a height standpoint, a width standpoint, you name it, we got it. So I would just urge you to don't be afraid to challenge your sales managers, our folks, and come up with the right fixture that works for you.
I think you've got a future in the industry, Brett.
We love food. So.
I just want to quickly comment on what Brett was saying is, like, as we're talking about moving center stores to the perimeters, those fixtures become really, really important. So back to your original question, I do see a link between food prep as a mega category and health and wellness as a mega category. So those two trends are emerging, and I think that retailers that understand those trends and answer the customer needs are going to be successful and are going to be positioned for future growth. I see a lot of successful retailers making changes in store. They're adding clinics in the stores. They're expanding some sections that are really answering the customer needs, like OTC and vitamins and supplements, diet and nutrition, natural, organic, all those needs. So I think that all those things are really going to help us be successful over the next few years.
All right. So I just want to ask Brett to close out with this really quick. You know, the Internet of Things, the future. We didn't even talk about 3D printers and where that's going with food prep and food creation. But what do you think? Were the Jetsons right about we push a button and everything comes out? What's going to happen in the future?
You know, we haven't seen it in our business too much, but we're not in the large electric appliances or even the small domestic appliances. And so really at this point we've seen a little bit of it in the way of meat thermometers, remote meat thermometers, or pressure cookers, or even electric grills, indoor grills. There's some smart technology on those items. But when it comes to the manual food prep items, not yet. A little bit of cookware. There's been some intelligent cookware out there that's been brought to market, but not yet, Todd.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you to sort of close out the session.
First of all, I do want to say thank you to each one of our GMDC members that were able to participate today. And again, thank you all for being here. We know that we've got a great show to be off to. Just really quickly, GMDC is a 45-year-old association. We invented speed dating, and we help you connect, create, collaborate, and drive commerce. We have several people up in the front here from GMDC. Patrick Spear, our president and CEO, would love to meet you and talk with you. We also have some brochures we'd love for you to be able to pick up. You can go ahead and download this white paper on the gmdc.org site, or pick up the executive summary over in the side table. GMDC was featured in Forbes last month. We'd love for you to know, don't let me tell you, but let Forbes tell you as far as what we are as an association. And we'd love to just engage with you and talk to you about and help you see how we can grow your business. So thanks for being here today, and have a great day.
Thank you.